everybody, my name is Stephan Petermann. I am a visiting professor at the Central Academy for Fine Arts in Beijing. I have been to China more than 20 times. I've been always welcomed with great hospitality, incredibly friendly people who have always helped me in every position that was necessary and beyond. I've made many friends in China, which I have been very sorry to miss. China's poverty alleviation efforts have been very impressive, I think, for the rest of the world. I think a remarkable achievement was made in lifting close to 700 people from poverty, specifically in rural areas. I think a great achievement. I think what is to be learned from this experience is that showing energy, showing effort, and also investing in more difficult areas is something that should be encouraged and should be done at multiple levels, and that is something that not every area in the world is successful in. And I think by looking at some of the examples that I've been able to visit over time in China, and learning from what works and also what doesn't work, we can make steps towards the future. I've been able to visit multiple sites where various forms of government policy have steered a countryside village or an area into greater prosperity. I think of a specific case called Yubulu, down in the south. It's a very small hamlet village which was very old, and where former Kafa Dean and now Vice President Liu Pinjing transformed the small village from its rice-growing origins towards a new, more contemporary program which included informal forms of tourism and also other forms of planting techniques and agricultural production. I think that was a beautiful example of how you can preserve what is good from the past, but also innovate and create new opportunities for people in areas that generally don't have the prosperity that others have. So I think this is for me a very positive case to show in this example also to other places in the world of how something traditional and something modern can coexist. The definition of the countryside is something that's very hard to grasp. For me, there are tons of them, and you can really get lost in a sort of theoretical debate of where the city ends and where the countryside starts. I think for the future, I think it's more important that we focus on the qualities that both areas have. The density of a city which encourages more interaction, more collaboration, and more closer ties between people, but the countryside at the same time offering space, offering room, offering relaxation sometimes, also other forms of work that just are not possible in the city. So for me, the future of this relationship is interconnected. It's not that you have to choose either between the countryside or the city. I think both are equally important, and both lives of people in both areas are equally important, and also a flexibility of having parts of your life in the city and parts in the countryside seems to be, for me, the ideal outcome of the 21st century. I was one of the curators of the Countryside the Future exhibition held at the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum just before the global pandemic started. That we wanted to show, at least at the Guggenheim, when we look at China, is that we wanted to show, specific to an American audience, an image of China that was unlike what they heard in most American media, but really look at the lives of people and simply how they relate, and how some efforts in the Chinese countryside are very hopeful and positive inspirations for the future. The relationship between traditional architecture and modern architecture is not very easy, specifically in the countryside. There are a lot of very beautiful old structures that I found, which have an enormous value and should be preserved, but at the same time the amount of resources are not always up to the offering people the opportunity to actually improve their housing. So this is a very difficult case. I would, however, strongly support the preservation of some of the more interesting villages, and maybe not only as a tourism opportunity, but also as an opportunity for living and for enjoying and integrating modern comfort into traditional housing. It is very likely that indeed rural tourism is one of the key success factors for the future of the traditional Chinese countryside. But at the same time, I think tourism for the future also on other places on the globe needs to evolve and needs to grow into more interesting formats that are less about stereotypes, less about reenactments, less about, let's say, a culture that is dead, and more celebrating a culture that is living. An improvement to the visitor's experience would be to really look at what is unique, look at what people want, what they desire, and what kind of opportunities we find in the countryside. There is a gap in the perception between the real China and the China in the eyes of the Westerners, at least for those who have not visited China. They will find a China that is definitely something more complex, something more intriguing, something more special than what you normally get in most Western media. So I wish again that we can be in touch more directly, engage more, collaborate more, and that we learn how to work together and also solve the bigger issues that we face for our shared future.